Yo, what's good guys? This is Chris from WearTesters.com. Welcome back to the official WearTesters.com YouTube channel, the only sneaker channel here on YouTube where you come for the review and stay for the conversation. Today, we don't really have a review. Instead, we have more of a retrospect because I grabbed these just now from my friend Vince, also known as Shades and Souls here on YouTube. So big shout out to you. And I grabbed these. This is a year removed from the original launch, just about. And so I just was kind of like, better late than never, right? So for those of you guys that don't know, this is a Tinker release. And on top of that, it's one of my favorite shoes. I wouldn't say it's actually one of my favorite shoes, but it's one of my favorite shoes to wear. And it's the Air Jordan 3. The Air Jordan 4, for those of you guys that don't know, is my actual favorite Jordan. But for some reason, I wear 3s more often than not. I'm currently wearing them right now as we speak. I'm wearing some Katrina 3s. And for whatever reason, I just find that the 3 is the most wearable Jordan, in my opinion. And the thing that I love the most about them is that they got that 80s vibe to them, and especially in this colorway. And the reason why I wanted to kind of look back at these is, for one, this is my first time actually owning them, and for two, again, kind of a retrospective look at the release itself now that we're about a year removed, and just kind of see what you guys still think about the shoe. This was actually a shoe originally that I did not even want. Actually, and let me put the box back up here because I actually like doing that better. Now you guys can see how neurotic I am about things.
You?
Yeah, me? Go figure. I might just possibly have a small case of OCD. I don't know. But anyways, these guys right here, when they first originally launched, I wasn't feeling them actually. I'm still half and half on them for the most part because of this little gray rand right there. I'm not a huge fan of that. I really wish that it was like a super soft gray, or maybe even a super soft gray nubuck, but it doesn't kill the entire shoe for me. It's just one of those things that had stopped me, or it made me hesitant to buy them. The thing though that I love about the shoe is the Nike Air branding in a red heel tab. Not the Nike Air branding itself. I think that it could have been a Jumpman and I still would have loved it. It's just that red look to it. I don't know what it is. It just looks so weird and almost like out of place, but not. It's just one of those things that I just really love about this shoe. I first saw them at SneakerCon Bay Area, and that was the time when I was like, oh, actually those are kind of cool, but the pricing for them, I was like, I don't think so. I'm not trying to spend that much money. Now these have been worn a couple of times, maybe just a couple. Like Vince barely wears his shoes, so whenever he posts his stuff for sale, I'm always kind of like, dibs. So that's what I did with these guys. I immediately was like, hey, what size are them 3s? Because I think I want them. You know, he gave me a great price and all that stuff, and I absolutely love how these look now, which is weird because that kind of happens all the time, not just with shoes, but with things in general. You look at something that could be considered not attractive and you end up kind of like, I don't know, you almost like brainwash yourself into being like, actually, maybe I do like them. I'm not talking about you, don't worry, or am I? So for those of you guys that don't actually own the shoe, the materials on them are actually really nice. It's got a really soft, tumbled looking leather up here on the upper. The gray material is not nice. It's just a, you know, normal synthetic they use on most of the Jordan 3s. Same thing with the swoosh right there, and then the elephant print is standard stuff. For some reason, I don't know what it is, but when I try these on, they feel a lot softer underfoot. I don't know if that's from the insole or they tweak something in the midsole. But again, I'm wearing a pair of 3s right now, and when I put these on, I was kind of like, why are these feeling like more fluffy than the other ones? So again, I think it's the insole, but it could be either one or maybe both. Now back here, you have Tinker's signature right there, which I think is dope. And then on the inside, you also have a signature, but they've kind of stepped it up a notch by also putting in the original design sketch for the shoe. And I think that little touch in there is probably my favorite part of the shoe itself. As a kid, and even now as an adult, I just love seeing concept sketches. I love seeing renderings, all that stuff. I think that that might be one of the most interesting part between the initial stage as to the finished product, where you see what the original thought process was, and then you get to see the finished product itself. And as we all know, the finished product was slightly altered from what we see here. This could have been it, but obviously there were a few changes. And that's something that I wish was implemented more into not just footwear today, because back in the day you used to have like box lid art with tech spec breakdowns and all that stuff. I wish that they still did that, but throw in a design sketch, be like, hey, this is where the artist or the designer was originally planning to go, and this is where we ended up. I think that those types of storytellings are way more important than, and I'm just using this as an example because it's a recent release, but this could have been cool using that Dream It, Do It campaign and all that stuff, but they didn't do anything with it. They just kind of were like, hey, we're gonna pick this theme out of a hat, we're gonna put it on a shoe, and we're gonna release some apparel again and just be like, boom, hopefully y'all remember. Nobody remembers. Even I didn't remember. I had to like Google the damn thing and I was like, yo, I don't even remember this apparel releasing. This, I think, is the best way to tell stories. If you're gonna tell stories, don't just pull stories out your ass. Make ones that actually tie into the past, to the heritage, to the original creation of the product, and I think that would be dope. And that brings me to these guys right here. This is the other Tinker release, the official Tinker release that they kind of like released around the same time frame. Was this last year?
Yes.
Okay, so this was last year. I think that these are ugly personally, and I still think that they're ugly. I keep them because of the Tinker thing. I think that, again, seeing a sketch come to life is so cool that, you know, clearly this one didn't stray too far off from the original sketch, whereas this shoe, completely different. And I think that that's insane. I don't know, man. I think that this is a trip right here. And I think that we should get more of this stuff. If this is just 2 out of the many that Tinker has designed, like just imagine the stuff that we've never even seen before. The guy was like a crazy genius, far ahead of his time. I've seen, like, for example, concept sketches or renderings of the original Air Jordan 11. They look more like the Shake and Destruct than they do the actual Air Jordan 11. There was even samples of those made that Jordan would wear in some promo images and stuff like that for the shoes, but again, that shoe never made it to retail in that way. And I think that if they did, that's a proper story. That's taking things that actually happened in the past that were significant, because obviously like that led to something else, which was an iconic classic, and then have that be part of your storytelling within your brand instead of just, you know, flight utility and spacesuits. So that pretty much takes care of it for these guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Again, just a quick look back. You can see the stitching back there. The tongue on these also, I will say, nice and soft. I dig it. And what do you guys think about this shoe? How do you feel about them 1 year later? Supposedly we have 2 more dropping. We have, or actually not supposedly, but confirmed there's at least 1 more dropping. Supposedly there's a second one dropping later on in the year. The first one dropping is for Air Max month or Air Max day. It's another play towards Tinker with the Tinker 3, but it's got that Air Max 1 vibe to it. I think those are super fresh. I don't really like the removable swoosh thing, but otherwise I think that those look super dope. I love the way that those turned out. And then the second one is supposedly there's a black and cement one with like a, I don't know if it's supposed to be a white swoosh or like a reflective swoosh, but if that's a real thing, man, like I'm just saying, like I might have to actually grab those. But these things I just think are super dope. Again, it's a shoe that I did not like at first, but I definitely have grown to appreciate them. I know that a lot of you guys can understand that and probably appreciate that as well. If you do, let me know down below in the comment section what shoe that is for you. Maybe it's the Jordan 15? Huh? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe the Jordan 19? I doubt it. But sound off below, let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all your support. And until next time, guys, have a good one.
Can I say how much I like how you say retrospect?
What do you mean?
I don't know, because usually you say it, someone says it as like retrospect, but the way you said it, you like overemphasize the word retro. And so it made you really be like, oh yeah, like we're looking back a year ago, like to a retro.
Like Chandler Bing status?
Yeah.
Retrospect.
In retrospect.
That's what it is though. It's a retro and it's kind of like it's like everybody's got that shoe. There's but if you're a sneakerhead, you already know this is not like a non-normal thing. Like this is like a daily thing for me.
Yes.
Of being like, well, I could use those, but even though probably not. And this is one of hundreds, you know what I mean? Maybe thousands, I don't know. Depends on like how deep you go into this sneaker thing, but this is one of those shoes where it's like, yo, like I missed out on those. This is the thing, I never actively searched for these, but like it just happened to like pop up in my feed and all that stuff. And I was like, I know he wears my size.
Right.
And so I just was like, what do you want for him? And he told me and I was like, done, like that's it, you know, and it was super simple. It's stupid to say this, but like, you know, everything happens for a reason. Yes, and I know that this is stupid, okay, but like everything happens for a reason. So if you're gonna talk about if it's meant to be or not, it just happened to be like, oh, these came across my path again, so me owning these, it just must be meant to be.
I didn't realize that this has been a thing for at least a year. Like I thought
the Tinker thing?
I thought it started with that.
With this shoe? I think this came out after.
It did.
Okay.
So, but I thought that was their whole like, let's try something new. But apparently they've been trying something new with.
The difference between the two is that I feel like that's a drastic difference between concept to reality, and this one is very minor. We're talking about a swoosh and stitching. That's it. Those are the only things that had changed. You know, and that's what I mean by I would love, instead of this, like, why this? Okay, and why not this? And I get that a lot of people didn't buy these. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get it. I think this one might have sold kind of well, but then they make the mistake of let's put out more colors.
Did they try more colors?
Oh, there's tons of these colors. Yeah, there's jade ones, there's Space Jam colored ones.
Oh.
And I understand the business side of it is because when you open the tooling and you had to create, this is not like this. Everything here was done already, you know? All they had to do was add a template for the swoosh and add some stitching. This though, you had to recreate tooling. And that means that you had to then make molds. And you had to do it in every size that you dropped this in.
Right.
And then you had to create pattern for the upper, like the templates for the uppers, and then you had to manufacture it and all that stuff. And a lot of the things, like my main complaint with this was that they only added Zoom Air in the heel, not in the forefoot, which is, you know, quite different than the actual Jordan 13. On one side, I get it, because it's like, yo, we spent so much already, these are probably gonna flop. But then again, on the flip side, it's like you've already gone so far, you've gone head first. Why not just put the zoom in there, you know what I mean? Because then at least that's something where if someone like me is going to review it, be like, hey, you might not like these, but at least, you know what I'm saying? And instead it's like, hey, you might like these, but